Hello, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. This is Ben Keaton Talks, and I'm so delighted to be doing this. I've been thinking that all of us creative people are squirreled away, dealing with all this madness, and that it would be a really brilliant idea to do a series of talks with people who are really doing things in a new and fresh way, that they're approaching getting their creativity out there, maybe in ways that we hadn't thought of, or at least we don't know much about. And I thought this is a fantastic idea. We're all stuck at home, and you have to get that stuff out because, you know, it's good for you. It's good for your mental health, and it has the potential to earn an income for you that, of course, you might not be able to find otherwise. So I'm going to be doing this series, and it's going to be on a bunch of subjects. It's going to be about podcasting, crowdfunding, live streaming innovators, people who are doing things. Do you know, we've seen lots of live streaming, and this, of course, is one of those things. Some people have just such brilliant ways of approaching these things. Patreon, how to get funding for the work that you do. And so a whole stream of things which I think are going to be very exciting. Of course, I'm not doing it on my own here. I've got somebody to welcome online with us who's going to be helping me out through this. So let me just call you into the room here. There you go. Laura, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How on earth are you? It's lovely to
I'm really good. I'm really good. I'm so excited. This is the first time you and I have worked together.
It is. What a baptism of fire, but a very lovely one with some very lovely, exciting authors.
Too early to say, Laura. Too early to say. It might backfire. Listen, I'm excited about this because today we're going to be talking to people who've done self-publishing. And that's a whole bit of a minefield. Have you ever thought about publishing something for yourself? Are you published?
No, actually, I did. I started writing a novel when I was quite sort of a reclusive young teenager about Cimeri, which is this Latin word that means ancient people living in eternal darkness, but never finished it. So maybe one day I will. I'll get the inspiration from these wonderful authors and actually get
living in eternal darkness. Well, this might be the time. This might be the time. Maybe it was just lingering there as an idea.
Who knows? Just waiting for actually to tap into the world.
Yeah, it might be that. Well, it's certainly now's the time for any ideas that are lingering around. But I was thinking to myself, you know, that most of us, I think, writers, directors, dancers, producers, so many people have something that they think to themselves, actually, that would make a good book or a good story. It would be a collection of works, poetry, whatever it might be. And sometimes we think, oh, a big, hefty book, you know, it might be that. But of course, people can produce really small publications nowadays. And of course, the ways of doing it are mad. Do you have friends who've published books?
Yes, I do. I have a good friend from university, actually. He's done a trilogy. I think his third one's out. And he went through doing it on Amazon.
Oh, how cool. That's brilliant. Well, this is fantastic because we have 3 authors with us that I'm going to bring in the room for us to talk to. And each of them has done something different. They've approached self-publishing in their own way. I'll bring them in. Let's start one at a time, and I'll tell you a little bit about them, Laurie, and chirp in, find out. I don't know much about them. They're strangers. We'll find out. Let's find out. The first one in here is this guy here, Des Kennedy. Let's bring in. Hello, Des Kennedy.
Hi, Ben. Delighted to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, Des. Now, let me do the synopsis, Des. You tell me if I'm wrong. Des Kennedy, first-time author. Your book came out in November. Was that right, Des?
Yeah.
It's just behind you there. Nobody noticed. Murder, Mutiny, and the Muglins behind you there. Always selling. That's what I like about him. There he is. And it's a non-fiction hardback, and it's a story which you found really living outside your window because it comes to a climax, a story about, what's the man's name? Captain Glass?
Captain George Glass.
Captain George Glass, and a true story, a guy who kicks off in Dundee in Scotland. This would have been in the 1700s?
Yes, 1760s.
1760s, and then he travels around the world. The adventures are amazing, really fantastic. I have to tell you, Laura, that we're brothers. Did you spot that?
Oh, I thought you'd never met.
Yeah, okay. Now, I've got a little question for you, Laura. It's a one-time question. Get this right.
Laura, he made that up. I have no idea who this man is.
Which one is younger? Come on, Laura. This is the money question. Which one of us is younger? Come on.
Laura, don't answer. No, don't answer.
Answer it, Laura. Answer it.
I'm not going to get sucked into this because you just never know.
Yeah, I know. It's contentious. It's me. I'm the younger. It's obvious. Come on. Okay. So Des, it's a fantastic thing that you've done to bring out this book, and we're going to go into the details of every aspect of it. But you've only been kicked out. How many have you printed so far?
Oops.
How many were printed? How many have you had printed? He's looking silent at me. Do you know we're going to have to cut him out?
Well, he's definitely got 4. We know there's 4.
We lost the sound there just for a few seconds, Ben.
Did I? Okay, sorry. Des, how many copies have you printed so far?
I've printed 800, and I've got about 40 left.
Isn't that amazing? Fantastic. Great story. I'm going to bring in our next author on this, ladies and gentlemen. Gav is here. Gav Bowden. Let's call Gav up. Hello, Gav. How are you?
Hi, everybody. How you doing? You all right?
Oh, good to meet you, Gav. Good to see you again. I hope you're well.
I'm all good. Thank you.
Now, Gav, you've got a book out as well. Now, we can actually look at it. Des, we'll look at yours now in a second, too. This is Gav's here. I should have brought it up so you can see it.
Very nice.
It's called The Dreams of Time. And there's Gav's email address, or rather a website address there. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this, there's a special on these for watching. So do keep an eye out. Today's special is a reduction in price from $7.99 to £6. And Gav will send you a signed copy if that is something that you'd like to do. And so listen, Gav, that book was a paperback, am I right?
It is paperback, yes. I did have a choice to have it paperback, hardback, or a Kindle version as well, but I just went for paperback because I just love the thought of kids actually picking it up and feeling it and touching it and reading the real pages.
Yeah, absolutely. And you brought it out, what, 2019?
Yes.
2019. And it's aimed at the, what would you say, young teenager?
Yeah, from anywhere from 7 years old will enjoy it up to 15, 16.
Brilliant. Okay, Des, while you're there, I'll have a look at yours too. Look, this is the cover here of Des's.
Thank you.
Murder, Mutiny, and the Muglins. And that's where you would get it from. This will all come up again later on in the stream, ladies and gentlemen. So don't worry, you'll be able to see that. Des is able to send you a signed copy. It's coming over from Ireland, so it's so it's coming a long way. And we'll come back and show that again. Let me bring in our third author. Let me say, first of all, that Gavin there, he had worked through a publisher. He took on a publisher. Is that right, Gavin? You hired somebody to do the work for you. Des, on the other hand, did the whole lot himself, went off, got in individuals to do the work for him, including publishers, or rather printers in Poland, did all of that. So there's the difference between the two of those. Our next person to join us is Karen Geiler. Let's have a look at Karen. Come in and join us, Karen. Hello.
Hello.
Lovely to meet you, Karen. We hadn't met until this evening. How are you?
Really good, thank you. And it's fabulous to be here.
It's lovely to have you. So, Karen, now you've done 2 series of books, and you brought them out on Amazon. Am I right?
Yes.
So that's quite an achievement. Let me have a look at this. This is, here we have it, is KarenGeiler.com, Karen Geiler, author on Facebook, and join my readers club to get the society starter. The society is one of the series. And now explain this. You have a new episode that just came out, a new book of this series that came out. Is that Dare You? Is that correct?
It is, yeah. Dare You is a prequel to The Society, which is a brand new #1 book of this series, a new series coming out in March. It's on pre-order right now. And There Can Be Only One is a short story set in the Society's world.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Well, listen, thank you all so much for joining me here today. I'm going to kick off, and let me say that if you want to contribute, ladies and gentlemen, online, if you have any questions, Laura's going to pick them up, put them into the feed, and we'll drop them into the conversations as we go through. So do please do that. That's really good. And please, while you're there now and you're engaged, and we're going to get into these stories, do please share this. Share it right now to all your friends and relations. And don't skimp on the sharing thing. It's free. You just hit the button and share it with your friends, because you don't know who's out there that could really do with some inspiration, who has a book inside them and would find this interesting. I'd really appreciate it. And we'll come back and you'll get all those deals as well. So, and also at the end of this, these guys are going to tell you not only the hints and tips of how to avoid disaster, but also things that will help you to save money, perhaps, if you're interested in doing self-publishing yourself. I'm going to kick off with a simple question to all of you. I'd like to start, please, with Karen. Karen, can you tell me why self-publishing? What made you go that route?
Because no one's going to care more about my book than I am. And if you do publish independently, you have control over everything. So you get to choose your cover, you get to choose what you write, how you present it, how you bring it to market, how you market it, absolutely everything about it. You get to choose that. You have ultimate control. And because you're the one who cares the most about it, you're really passionate about it. So you work really hard for it. Not saying that publishers don't, but it's much easier if you actually driving that yourself, and you can see the results of that passion.
And tell me, did you actually go the route yourself of the normal route of submitting and going through the normal hoopla of rejections and all of that? Did you do that?
I did. I had an agent, and I had a book went to the Frankfurt Book Fair, my first book, the only. And everyone raved about it, but it's tiny things that trip you up in the trad world. The German publishers wouldn't take it until an English publisher had published it, because they didn't want to have to change any translation that they did. A lot of English publishers really liked it, but there was always that one thing, they've just taken on a book in that market, or there's somebody else who's just written a book like that, it's got the same twist as you, or that genre's not so hot anymore, we're not looking for those. So there's all little things, you know, you really have to have everything lined, all the traffic lights have to be green to get the trad deal.
No, I agree. I think it's so common in all of these things where they think that there is a market for something that's absolutely unique, and that's also, of course, a complete stonking lie, because also they want something that is unique to you. The readers read the same stories again and again. It's the voice of the author, really, isn't it? Do you think was that demoralizing?
It was a heartbreaking roller coaster. When I got my agent, I cried the whole afternoon because I was so happy, because it's been such a dream of mine to be an author. And then I went through all of the rejection of that book, and okay, so that's not going anywhere. Having been told, oh, the only so brilliant, it's going to be a TV series, write sequel. I started writing the sequel, and that was a no-go, so I had to write something else. And then same thing, everybody loved it, but nobody would take it. Then I wrote another book. And at that point, I thought, what am I doing? This is 5 years of my life, and I keep being told no, 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 no. And then a friend said to me, just put The Only up on Amazon and see what happens. Yeah. And the reviews speak for themselves, really.
I think that's such a common thing, isn't it? Just being exhausted with it. Gavin, can I ask you, Gavin, the same question? What made you go to self-publish? Oh, shit. Beg your pardon, Gavin. I just locked you out. I'm learning this. It's electricity. It's very exciting. Gavin, well, tell me a bit about your experience. Why did you choose self-publishing?
Because I didn't really know anything about publishing at all. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know how to format it. I didn't know how to get an ISBN number, even if you had to get an ISBN number. So I didn't know really where to start. And to be honest, I wasn't even really looking at publishing my story. I just wrote a story because it was a way of me escaping from a lot of things that were going on in my life at the time. And then I was speaking to an author at a publisher at a social event, and they were really interested in seeing my book, and they said how amazing it was, and that's how I kind of fell into it. But I didn't know anything about publishing.
Gosh, okay, that's cool. How brave. And then jumping straight in. Des, tell me about yourself. what's your thoughts on this? Why did you decide on that route?
Well, I'm not as brave as Karen, and I can't stand rejection. So I figured, having listened to a lot of people in the business, trying to get an agent, trying to get a publisher, there's no time scale involved in that. So I'm conscious of my own attention span. I was really keen to do it when I felt keen to do it. And I just knew if I waited 4 or 5 years for a publisher to come back to me, I'd lose interest. But the other thing I wanted to do was I wanted to learn as much as I possibly could about the whole business. And the reason for that was, I guess at the end of the day, you'd like to cover your costs or maybe even make a bit of profit on your whole transaction. And you can't do that unless you understand the costs of the individual steps along the way. So self-publishing, it's been a fascinating adventure. I did it in about a year, but my goodness, I couldn't write a list that's been so long now, the things I've learned in that way, which I never would have learned if I went straight to a publisher.
Well, it's an amazing thing to do it, I think. You took on the entire thing yourself. So we'll start with you, Des. Tell us, give us a brief synopsis of your route through the self-publishing thing. How did you start off?
Okay, Ben, go right back to the beginning. I have a little leaflet here in front of me. It's a small little thing. It's got about 8 or 10 pages in it. And it's the notes that were given by a man called Padraig Laffan after a lecture he gave in 1987. I came across that and I thought, what a fabulous story, but it's just an outline and notes. So over the years, I was collecting little bits and pieces without putting too much time into it. And then decided, when we're coming to the middle end of last year, to put all of this together. And as luck or bad luck would have it, COVID hit early in the new year. So I figured, what a perfect time just to get all my bits and pieces together and go and do it. So the surprising thing to me, and I don't know if Karen's had the same experience, when I finished my manuscript, I thought, hey, lo and behold, I'm a writer. There's my manuscript, A4 pages and very thick. And to be honest, that was the easiest part of all. The hard work really started then. And that was why part of the learning curve was, I knew that at some stage you really have to have a couple of good people on side, and unfortunately you have to pay for their skills. One of them is a proofreader, which comes at the end, where he picks up all the typos and the bad grammar and makes you sound like a very literate person. But the most important one to me was an editor. And the editor that I found, it was like handing your child to a surgeon, and he sends the child back missing 2 fingers. And that's how I felt when I got the manuscript back. But what he was able to do, and he put it in very simple terms, he said, watch out for repetition. And when he started to take out repetition, bloody hell, lad, he took out sections of my book. But the difference that made to the end product was just amazing. So yeah, if I went to, I suppose, a publisher at the start, an agent at the start, I never would have really learned that. So that gave me, I suppose, a manuscript that I didn't feel embarrassed about anymore. Now, that was the start. Well, I just go on the next few leaps because it's a short story. Once you've got a manuscript and you've been through the details I've just mentioned, then you got to figure out, I suppose, how are you ever going to sell one copy of something? And I decided what I wanted to do was, since I'm starting at the beginning and learning as I go, I want to produce a hardback with a glossy cover, with a ribbon inside, with a font that I really like. And I have a hang up about fonts. When I pick up a book in a store and the font is too small, I won't buy it. I don't care how good the story is. And also the paper. And I found a guy who is a semi-retired old world printer who moved all the way into high technology. And he knows all about layouts, papers, etc. And it made such a difference. So what I wanted to do then was, when you pick up the book and you touch the pages and you look at the font, it just feels kind of quality. Yeah. So that got me locked onto a hardback, which I knew I couldn't do really in a paperback. So I said, I'll do the paperback later, get the hardback out first. So then I started to look for printers and printer costs.
Well, can I ask you, Karen,
yes.
were you robbed of all this then? Because you decided to go Amazon and Kindle and all the rest of it. You didn't get to hold the weight of the font in your hand. Is that right?
Actually, here we go.
No way! In your face, Des.
Here we go. That's
Lovely.
one I said earlier.
Yes.
They are beautiful. They are really lovely. I had an artist do the covers for me.
Yes.
So yes,
That's
and it's
brilliant.
such a special moment, isn't it, Des, when you actually hold it in your hand?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I go to bed like this.
I know. He sent me one. I think it was soiled. He sent me a copy of it. I'm not sure about it. I think he'd had it for a while. Can I ask you? Tell me a little bit about the process. You decided to avoid all the hard labor that Des went for, and you decided to look for a company that was going to take care of this for you. Tell me a bit about that. Why did you make that choice, and what was that relationship like?
The relationship was really good. They treated me really well, kept me in the loop all the time, didn't make any changes without telling me. But it was very stress-free. But at the same time, like Des said, I didn't learn anything about the publishing process, about anything about that. They went through the proofread and 3 edits and a forensic edit. And the whole process, including all my illustrations and everything, took about a year, the same time. But obviously, it was very expensive. One of the ladies that worked at the publishers, her daughter, did the illustrations for me for the book.
There you go.
And the illustrations on each chapter. I have just an illustration of the chapter on the chapter. And she was really good.
Okay. And how do you think it was a good investment doing it that way?
I suppose I didn't have a choice, because I suppose I did have a choice if I wanted it publishing. I was always busy at work and didn't have the time to do all the footwork and have a look into the procedure.
You just wanted to get yours out there without all that time. Des is retired, so he needs something to keep him going.
One
Ben,
thing I would
very like Ben. That word sounds very like retarded. So, there must be more.
It's my accent, Des. Sorry, it's the Irish accent. Sorry.
I think we all need something to keep us going at the moment, though.
And one thing that I did think I was going to get from it more than I felt once I'd paid for the books and had the books, when I'd collected them, I felt as though I was left on my own a little. Although my job is sales and marketing, this is completely different.
It is really, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Why is that? Is that because you've got an emotional connection to the product?
Maybe. I didn't realize until I had the books in my hand and I started marketing and selling the books, how many children's books are being released every day, and how important it is that you've got to stand out some way. You've got to find your niche. And I didn't really consider, when I was writing the story, I didn't really consider the demographic or how big it should be or illustrations or anything like that, because publishing really wasn't on my mind when I was writing it.
That's interesting. So Des discovered some of that, I guess, on your route through, didn't you, Des? But Gavin, you only learned that at the end when you had it.
Yeah, my next book, because my book is part of a series of 5. I'm almost finished with my second. It's taken me a long time. I've done hardly any writing this year, but I will self-publish.
Brilliant. I see. And Karen, tell me a little bit about, okay, so Amazon now is a huge monster of a company, and we all know that frankly, I don't know very much about the publishing through Amazon. I know that you email in your manuscript and then you're famous, but is there something in between those two things?
A little bit of hard work. a bit of banging your head on the desk sometimes when the tech doesn't quite work.
How do they go about it? What's the process?
It's very simple. It's very seamless. They want you to be successful. Obviously, they do. It's a very good interface for people to have an ebook through. They also do publish books. These are done through Amazon, these three. With this series, I went straight to Amazon with the ebook, and then eventually I brought out paperback. With my next series, the one that's launching properly in March, I'm going to Amazon for the ebook into what they call Kindle Select, Kindle Unlimited, which is where your ebook is only available from Amazon. And then people can borrow it from a library, and you get paid royalties on any page reads as well as any sales. But with the paperback this time, I'm going wide. So I'm going with an ebook paperback distributor who will get my books, or actually these books are in the libraries in Milton Keynes, but paperbacks you can go wherever you like, and I will do audiobooks as well, and they will be distributed through another company worldwide. And I might look at hardback. They are pretty, aren't they?
Is that because all of that is connected within Amazon, or is some of that outside? Like the audiobook, for example, is that also a connection with Amazon?
Amazon have Audible, the audiobook company. You can put your ebook, audiobooks even, with Amazon, but you do have a long lock-in period. So I'm quite keen to tap into the markets of the world where Amazon isn't, the ecosystem isn't prevalent there. And going forward, looking at the way sort of the technology is expanding, audiobooks are becoming absolutely enormous. In lots of countries have overtaken print books and paper books. So I want to be available in all of the countries that I can be, rather than just the countries where Amazon has a presence.
Okay, well, so looking back at the way that you approach this, Karen, what do you think that the method that you chose is the best method for you? Is that what you're going to continue using?
Absolutely. The mainstay of my publishing will be through Amazon for ebooks, and in the Kindle Unlimited, so that people can get them and read them. You know, if they don't like them, they don't have to keep reading, and it's like a borrow thing. So they don't have they pay a subscription per month, and they can borrow however many books they can read in that month.
So what's the top thing that you think? What's the top benefit of being with Amazon? Is it just relieving you of a lot of concerns, or is it reaching the biggest audience? What do you think is the best benefit of it?
I think it's the ease of reaching a big audience for ebooks, certainly. Going wide, as in going into lots of different companies throughout the world. So if you go with a book distributor, and they get you into Apple Books and Kobo and Barnes and Noble and all of these other stores, it's a lot harder. It takes a lot longer to build an audience. So Amazon is certainly the main driver of ebook traffic sales.
Is there any aspect of Des or Gav's process that you envy?
Shiny hardback, I really like that. The ease of handing it all over to somebody and saying, hey, you do that while I'm over here writing, I like that. It is harder doing it all yourself, but it is so much more satisfying when you've done it and you've got the tech to work and your website looks great and all of the integrations are working. That's brilliant. That's really cool. But you do have to take time away from the writing. You have to understand it's a business. You have to do the entrepreneurship as well as the writing, when the brain really wants to do the writing.
Would you, Gav, would you agree that the promotion far exceeds the writing process in terms of effort?
Oh yeah, definitely.
What was the thing? What's the biggest thing that your method of selling the most? What was the most successful way of selling your book? I
did well on Facebook, and I also did well at book. I did well at my book launches. So I had 3 book launches in different places, and they did well. And I also went to fairs and sold books as well.
And well, then you get an opportunity to meet the reader as well. That must be pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I love that. That was really good. You know, the way the kids look at you when you're signing the book for them and everything, it's really fantastic. I had the advantage later on of getting a very well-known actor, voiceover artist to read a couple of my chapters, so that I could put that on my on
Anyone
my
we know?
website.
Anyone off the telly?
Yeah, actually, Des has got a picture of him behind him.
I think the cow. Did you get a cow to do a reading for you?
Actually, Ben, thank you very much for your help, because it was you that did a couple of...
Me. Oh, I didn't recognize myself from what you were saying. I thought it was somebody really famous. Oh, yeah, I did that. Yeah, sure.
I am slightly disappointed it wasn't the cow.
No, you're quite right. It was fun to do. And tell me about you guys, Karen and Des. Have you thought about having audio extracts or audio books? Karen, you were saying an audio book. That's an exciting project. What do you think, Des? Do you think is that something you'd like to do?
I'm looking at it as several steps, Ben. I want to get as much as I can out of the hardback. But the more I learn about it, the more I see you've got to be careful. For instance, I have some images in my hardback, and they're copyrighted. And if I give those into, say, an ebook, I'm going to have your attorney talking to my attorney for the next few years. You'll be very careful on that. So that means I'll have to change some of the graphics in my hardback when I get it into a paperback. I'm planning a paperback for about next Easter, so I've got a little time to work out some of the difficulties on that.
Is that a big concern? I mean, I don't mean is changing them over a big complication?
Well, it depends. You see, the layout of your book is quite sensitive in pages and whatever, and if you're taking out a few pages, then you're going to have to go back and redo bits and pieces and whatever. So that's why I was just curious listening to Karen, who's an expert in this area, about whether she had to make any changes from her manuscript to get into a paperback where certain things Amazon wouldn't allow. Were there any areas, Karen, where Amazon said, no, don't put that or take that out?
No, there were, but I was very conscious of how it looked as a paperback. And there were areas where I sort of shortened some sentences so that you didn't get just that one line at the top of a page. It's a bit more forgiving in an ebook format. The formatting is different in a paperback. It sort of spreads out a little bit more, so it does come out differently. So it means another read through just to make sure that everything is as you want it to be. And also for audio, I've been hearing quite a lot about audio. Writing for audio is different. And audio narrators that I know say, you have to be mindful of things like sentences that are very alliterative. Things like that are hard to narrate. So that's something else you'd need to think about.
Okay.
Now, this is where I have some expertise. I have some expertise here because I've spent the last 6 months writing a podcast series, which is basically nonfiction, but is treated in a very dramatic way. So I've been writing narration for the last 6 months. Coming from acting, writing narration means I can read it out loud and I can get the rhythm and the sound of it. But I am aware that when I submit script, if it's going to be read by somebody in a different way, they're going to read it and enjoy it, but it's not going to be the same as hearing it, because it is written for narration. And we have a common friend, Clara Steele, with Karen there. And now I'm working a bit with Claire at the moment, and I read to her to get notes. And that's really interesting because the reading of it helps to create the atmosphere of it. And that wouldn't be the same. It'd be fine. It'd be all right. It'd be a different kind of story. But it's a very different animal because you're getting a performance with it. And that changes things a lot, doesn't it? That really makes a difference.
Absolutely. I read my book out loud to myself, and it's amazing what you pick up.
It is, isn't it? It is. It also allows, as a writer, it allows you the opportunity to consider different things like rhythm and things in a different way, which are heard. And I find that my interest in poetry and rhythm, and I come from music and comedy, that all played a part in that, and it makes a very big difference to it. I'm going to get down to some nitty gritty, ladies and gentlemen, about numbers. And I'm going to speak now. Anybody who's online and joining us at the moment, thank you so much for joining us. Laura, are there any questions or anything else? If you have any questions, ladies and gentlemen, you can submit them. We'll pick them up. Laura, if you say no, it'll be really embarrassing. Are there any?
Well, no questions yet. We've got some lovely comments just saying, well done for bringing these guys together to share their experiences, Ben. And Lisa said, great advice here. She liked the attention span information, Des. Said it was brilliant.
Thank you very much. Very welcome. If you have any, thank you so much. Lovely to have you on board, ladies and gentlemen. Do please send in any questions you have. And that will be terrific. We'll put those things into the system. And if you're watching, do please share this right now. That would be very helpful. We're going to be doing more of these things, deep dive talks about various processes that will help creatives. I want to ask some numbers, please, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to start with yourself, Gav. Tell me about how many you had printed and where you stand now. You printed in 2019. Where you stand at the moment before you go into your second book. What were the numbers like?
Okay, so I had 1,000 books printed. I'm not going to tell you the full cost. Okay, but it cost about £5 a book.
Fair enough. I didn't see that coming. Well done.
And I'm selling the book at £7.99. Out of the 1,000, I sold about 400. I've given about 350 away to charities. One was the Michael Carrick Foundation that build packages together and deliver it to underprivileged children in the poorer areas of the cities. And so I've got a few left. And
tell me about, do you think, do you have a plan in your mind as to break-even point? Did you have a number that you had to get to?
Yeah, I think I had to sell about 475, I think.
Okay. And how you do? So you're close on that?
Yeah, not too bad. Or
yeah,
it might be a bit more.
Not too bad, not too bad. Des, tell me a little bit about your excursions. I know that that you were buying them, sort of getting them brought over because you had a publisher in Poland, isn't that right? A printer, and the printer was, and you were risking 200 at a time. That was the sort of way it was going. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a little bit of it's an interesting one, Ben. I should have mentioned a little earlier on. The thing that I should have done more of was talk to more people about various parts. One of them is printing. I reduced my printing costs by 50% by shopping around. And that was why I ended up in Poland with really high quality. There's a little time delay since a thing called Brexit was invented, where trucks coming through the UK now, you can add like 3-4 weeks sometimes to a delivery. So that changed my whole pattern. So I was fairly safe on 200 at a time, but I only started this in November. So I'm a child. I'm only 6 weeks old, but in that short time, I've had 800 delivered, and I think I've got maybe 30 or 40 left. But I've only worked on Facebook and Twitter, and I've got quite a lot of other things I want to do. But one of the lovely things is quite a lot of people have sent me back sentences on what they thought of the book, which really, really surprised me. And some of them were really, really lovely. Things that I hadn't thought of before, that I didn't put in by design, but they just seemed to click with people. What I wanted to do, just a little background, I wanted people to feel emotional about my hero character. He could have been made to feel like an evil person very easily. And that seemed to make quite a difference. And what that did was it gave me a good balance between male and female readers, because on the basis of the title, you would think murder, well, maybe that's narrowing the audience a bit, but because it's a human story about a family, I think it gave me a bigger audience. So that helped. But shop around for printing. I was amazed. In fact, I found my printer through a very, very helpful historian publisher here in Dublin, who very kindly gave me the details, gave me the address. Otherwise, my printing costs would have been double. Now that made a big difference to the bottom line. Also,
some people in your book were executed, and you can see from your house where that happened. So that's a nice. It's actually brought the value of his house down. It hasn't done that. It was a long time ago.
We tend to be historically correct. They were already dead when they were hung on an island right in front of my house.
Were
The
they
bodies
already
were
dead? That's cheating.
It's a fascinating era. If we've got another 2 hours, I'll talk about the late 1700s. But we have no idea. We have no idea how lucky we are. The cruelty and the hardship and the penalties on everything you did in life, there was a downside. Life expectancy was only 40. And when you did something wrong, you paid a big price. So I tried to get to understand that. And it all ended up with 2 bodies hanging on the little rock in front of my house, which is right there. There's an island in front of my house, and I live on the hill at the back. So it's outside my bedroom window.
But also, I suppose that because it's a local history story, it means that there is going to be sales for you locally, because you've done incredibly well in a newsagents really within your town.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a big boost compared to anybody else who would write a book. If you're writing something and there is a locality there that people can invest in, that makes such a big difference.
I had another thing where I was lucky in, Ben. I was involved in a sport, and as a hobby, I did all their press releases for 15 years. And that took me to 47 different events around the world. And at all of those, I built up a base of pals and friends and whatever. And I made sure they all saw the book was coming out. So it's actually, my sales are now in 13 countries as of today. And one book is stuck in a box trying to get into Barbados, because they're not allowing any boxes into Barbados in case they're attached to a COVID virus.
Yeah, I can understand. Tell me about yourself, Karen. Tell me about how this works financially and the numbers. You're obviously kept up to date with Amazon on terms of digital sales and all the rest of it. How does it actually work?
So Amazon sends you a report every month of what your royalties are, and they pay every month. So you kind of have a little gap between sales and royalties coming in, but they pay much more quickly than traditional publishers. The cost of getting your work out there can be as low as nothing, because it costs nothing to put your book on Amazon. My paperbacks print on demand, so I don't have any stock. People just order them off Amazon, and then the book is printed to demand and shipped to them directly by Amazon, so I don't get involved in any of that side, which is rather lovely. Something left for me to think about. The marketing, I just gave myself up to do proper advertising on these books last year in February. And then obviously the pandemic hit, and all of the advertisers said you cannot advertise anything that has the word pandemic in it. And the only is post-flu pandemic, dystopian future. So I couldn't advertise any of them, which was a bit sad. But they actually tick along quite nicely, which was quite surprising. And people really seem to love them, which is really lovely. But then
because your outlay then so your outlay must be a fraction of the other two guys here, because you're saying that you could actually get your book published and get it out for very little outgoing. Is that right?
It is, absolutely. You owe it to yourself to have a polished product. So you owe it to yourself to have it well edited, and also to have a lovely cover on it. A cover that somebody's going to find attractive enough to click on, because there is a lot of competition. But that can be, yourself having a bash at, if you're good at graphic design, you can have a bash at it. For this first series, I found an artist, a graphic artist, who would do them for me, and she was really, really priced. For my next series going forward, my son, bless him, is a visual effects artist, so I've strong-armed him to help me, and he's really offered to, which is brilliant, and he's done a cracking job with the covers. They look really lovely. But I have done a course to learn what elements should go in cover, what readers are looking for. I've done a lot of courses since I first published, so that's a cost, obviously, continuing professional development, but learning is brilliant. You're refining your product, you're honing your knowledge, you're getting to reach the people you want to reach. That's sort of plus, really. Plus, I am a sucker for a good course. So, brilliant.
And Des, what you want? You have a question?
Yeah, please, Karen. When you have your paperback, and let's say you want to do your own book launch in your library down the road, can you get a special deal where you can buy the paperbacks from Amazon for that? How does that work?
Yeah, you can buy author copies and they are at a much reduced price than the list price. You can, with the Amazon published books, the actual physical hard copies, that's what you do. You order author copies, but they don't go towards your ratings and rankings, obviously. I'm going to be using Ingram Spark for the next series, and you can order a book in Waterstones, and Waterstones can get it from Ingram Spark, where they can't get it from Amazon, or they won't get it from Amazon because of the discounting. So libraries and all over the world can order directly from Ingram Spark.
Amazing.
That's amazing.
Okay.
It strikes me that what do you think, Laura? It's an amazing thing. Amazon seems an incredible approach, given Brexit is a poo fest for us here. The other day, my son was ordering some stickers for his company, and they came in an A4 envelope. They cost about £180. They weren't particularly cheap, but it was an A4 padded envelope. And for the first time, he had to pay an import duty on it, and the import duty was £50.
Yeah. I've been hearing a lot of stories of even small packages hitting like £60 just out of nowhere.
I mean, that's the end of, he said, well, obviously I'm going to order from China now, and it's going to cost, there'll be an import duty, but I'll get 10,000 instead of 2, which is what he was doing before. But it must appeal to yourself, Des and Gav, the notion of being able to release something on Amazon if the outgoing is going to be so much less. What do you think, Gav?
Well, it definitely makes you think. Obviously, I'm the loser out of everybody on here, and I'll take it as a learning curve. Do
you think that is that really what you think from what you've heard?
Financially, yes. But I didn't publish the book. I didn't get the book published to make money. I didn't think I was ever going to make money. It would have been nice to break even. It was really just to get that feeling that I've got something out there and in children's hands. And all the comments and reviews that I've had have been amazing, which is such a feel-good factor. It's so good. I love that.
You were saying before, and I know we talked about this together, that you were going through some life changes. You bring out a book, and I can understand. I think for anybody, the response from public is incredibly encouraging. I suppose it must be doubly so if you're moving on in your life and you want something there. You were getting that from the public as well, weren't you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Makes a big difference. What about yourself, Des? Are you intrigued by the Amazon thing?
Sorry?
Yeah, definitely. As I said, I want to get as much as I can out of the hardback, and I'm still learning. And just tonight, even listening to Karen, you pick up things along the way. So I want to get to the paperback probably around Easter time and see where we go from there. But I'm just, excuse me, a little concerned at the moment about copyright and whatever, because you've got to be a bit careful on that. And of course, it's a different ISBN, so you're kind of starting off with a new book almost. And I'll check that out over the coming week. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you some of the big questions before we round out here. The biggest one is going to be, they will start off with, what do you think that you wish you knew before you got into self-publishing? Des, what do you wish you'd known? Well, I kind of wish it's something I should have done rather than known. I wish I spoke to more people who were expert in particular areas. For instance, my hero was involved in a ship in the Canaries. And I have a good friend who has a yacht moored permanently in La Gomera, which is an island close to the Canaries. And I was only talking to him about my book, which he was interested in afterwards. And he was telling me things from a sailor's viewpoint about what to expect while sailing in that area, which would have really helped to add a little more interesting detail when I was writing. So my first thing is, I think if you're mentioning or talking about people with any discipline in your book, I'd say find somebody with that discipline and talk to them. I think that would make quite a difference. That's really my only regret.
Mhm. And what about yourself, Karen? What's your feeling about what you wish you'd known if you when you were kicking off all this?
I wish I'd understood how the independent publishing model worked to start with, so that I would have gone there first. And I wish I'd known how Kindle would explode. Yeah, that's those two things.
And for you, has the Kindle thing really been a game changer?
Absolutely.
Really?
And it's becoming increasingly so that readers don't really care how their books reach them. They just want good stories to read.
That's a sobering thought. To hell with paper. I just want to read a story, Des. What's your problem?
Yeah, ask Karen, the return that you get on Kindle, is it very small? Do you need big numbers for any financial gain on that?
If your book is priced at $2.99 or over, you get 70% royalties. Anything under that is 5%.
Okay. Good, interesting.
We're all doing maths in our head.
I could get from 1995. How do I get down from 1995?
Yeah, I mean, you have an issue, Des, because you're living in a foreign country, and also your book weighs heavy.
No, sorry, Ben. No, you're living in a foreign country.
You decided on a book that was going to weigh a load because you like the heavy paper. So post is insane. And are you prepared, Des, to give up on the beauty of the handmade thing in order to get an Amazon book that would be printed off in the country of residence of your buyer?
Stab me right in the heart. It's a very interesting question, Ben, because it's become very serious. For me to post this little book to the UK, I can almost see it out my window, is $11.50. To post it to the United States is $16.50. It's crazy. So that's why the move into paperbacks next will reduce that, and then going a step further, I should be able to get it right down.
I would imagine so. Tell me about yourself, Gav. What about you? What do you think you wish you'd known at the very beginning?
What, you mean if I could have travelled back in time?
Oh, nicely done, nicely done.
I wish I'd have spoken to more authors and tried to get their opinions on self-publishing and try and listen to their experiences before I went ahead and did it myself.
Okay. Yeah. Well, okay, but I mean, I think I applaud the way that you did it. You jumped on it, you got it done, and you ended up with a book. And your next book, you might do differently. I guess that's the truth of it.
Yeah, and to be honest, I've got a lot of things in my book which I didn't even think about the author page, and I've got a little word search in the back. For the kids to do. It's all about the book, and I've got time traveling facts in there, and I wouldn't have thought of to do anything like that.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do a quick round here. I want top tips, please. Things to avoid that you're going to tell people. Karen, tell me what it is in your mind that you would advise people to avoid.
How about if I say one thing you should do? Was that okay?
That was my next question, Karen. You're messing with this.
I'm going forward in time here. Sorry.
I worked this out. I had nothing to do. I worked this out, Karen.
One thing to avoid: when you've finished your book, when you've written the end, stop thinking about it like it's your baby. It's a product now.
Stop thinking about it like it's your baby. Gosh. Okay. That's not so easy to do, is it?
No, Des looks crestfallen at that.
I know. And also, of course, as you say, Des, once you get an editor in and you get all those people in to help you, in inverted commas, it also feels like you're butchering somebody you love, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that's quite
a very good point, Karen. It's a very good point. But I think also it's relevant when it comes to getting payback. I think unless you really work on things like printing cost and postage, etc., etc. I mean, I can redo my book slightly lighter, and it will just get below the next postage level. little things like that you don't think of in the early stages. And that makes a big difference on your return on investment.
So, Des, what would you suggest as something to avoid? Make sure you don't do something or other. What would it be?
That's a hard one, Ben, because when you're learning, everything is new. So they were all things that I could have avoided and found by accident. But I think the main thing is to make sure you don't get tired as you're going through. Just be conscious of it. I wrote a book because I picked up the story 20 years ago, and it became just something I was very passionate about. And I think if I wasn't that passionate about it, I would have been like so many people who said, oh, I started a book once and I never finished it. And I think that's because their heart wasn't in it. So I would avoid getting involved in a story that you don't really, really care about. I think that means then that you're probably doing it for money. And I think, as Gav said, if you're doing it for money, I'm not sure it's going to work. And I think it might show through in the end product.
That's yeah, that's a very interesting way of doing it. What about yourself, Gav? What would you tell people to avoid?
Well, I was going to say, avoid getting a book published if you're doing it for money. Do it for the whole experience of doing it, but try not to take anything personally. Yes, it is your baby, and you're very passionate about it, and to get that book in your hand and feel it, and it's something that you've achieved, something you've created. Everyone's got a different opinion on everything, so try not to take anything personally.
Brilliant, thank you. And okay, we covered that.
Our cup runneth over with questions at the moment. We got a sudden influx as well.
Oh, I'm delighted. Tell us, what have we got, Laura?
So one of them ties in quite nicely right now, seeing as the answer obviously isn't money. Why writing? What drew you to it, and why do you love it so much? And this is to everyone. So.
Why did you choose writing, Laura? Des, why did you choose writing?
Oh, let's see. I think if you're sitting down with some friends and you're having a conversation, very often at some stage in the conversation, a joke or a story comes to mind. And sometimes those stories are ones that just make you think, God, I wish I knew a bit more about that. And I think then if you start doing a little research, what's the point other than just saying, I enjoy those 10 minutes before I forgot the story? I mean, the point, I think, in discovering a good story is to try and tell others. And if you tell others in a small circle, well, they'll forget it before they get home. If you actually write the book, you have the joy of it being there forever, for your children, for your family. And there's a really special joy in doing that. I must say, of all the things I've done in my 200 years of life, there are very few that I would say I would definitely do that if there's reincarnation. And writing a book is something I'm definitely going to do next time around. It's a fabulous experience.
And you'll start earlier. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. And,
no, I don't think I'd start earlier.
Just do the same thing.
What's all this writing thing? Why did you not choose to do something, have a different midlife crisis?
When I was a kid, I used to love writing poems and love writing short stories. And as a salesman, I've got a great imagination. But I use writing, the process, as a way of escapism, of getting away from normal life and going into this world that my story is in. And it really helps me. Yeah.
Yeah. What about yourself, Karen? Why write?
I've always been a reader, always a complete nerd, always had a book under my arm when I was little. And then, as Gav just said, used to write in exercise books, and in the back of my books, I'd write start stories. Always loved writing. Life happened, got in the way, and then I had time and space in my head, and I thought, right, now's the time to do it. So many stories, so many ideas. I just love getting caught up in characters' worlds and thinking, okay, how can I really put something special on the page, write characters that readers will really love, worlds that are really inviting, and plots that are really twisty. Just love it. Absolutely love all of it.
Brilliant. And Laura, and what else we got in questions? Have we got anybody else?
We do. We've got a few, and it segues very well into the next one we've got from Lisa, actually, who's asked everyone again, how do you decide what makes our stories interesting for others to read? So if both you and Des and Karen kind of talked, and even with escapism, you did, Gavin, like why you think they're interesting for people to read. Is there anything particular that you think helps you choose what to take forward for you?
It's a little bit different for my book, because I didn't write the book to be a book. It was just a story that I wrote that a few people around me read, and they really enjoyed it. And they said, you really should make this into a book. And it wasn't until I met a publisher that I decided on actually launching it to the world.
Mm. Mm-hmm. And that was the main thing for you, was that you'd found something that really intrigued you. What about yourself, Karen?
I love to put characters in really difficult situations and think, okay, what would this person do? How would this person get out of that? And looking at different themes as well, so that it kind of makes me think, what would I do if I was in that situation? And when my daughter's come in and when I've been working, and she says to me, oh my goodness, what's happened? Are you all right? And I'm sat here crying. I'm like, no, it's fine. It's just a really bad scene. It's fine. It's fine. So if I don't make myself cry, if I don't make myself laugh, how are the readers going to do that? They're going to really feel those emotions on the page.
Brilliant. Wonderful. What else have you got there? Laura, have you got anything else for us?
We've got two questions from Connor. First question is, Karen, how do you stay so cool? Which I think he's come straight in after as well.
Karen, you don't need to answer that. You don't need to answer that.
Why would I aim at Karen?
Karen, take it easy. And the other question was?
He says, serious question though, best cure for writers or creative block?
Gosh.
Can I go with that? Yeah.
Go on.
Well, if you think you're blocked, you're not blocked. You're just not got enough input. So walk away from the words, go for a walk in nature, listen to a podcast, listen to some music, watch a film, read a book, dance like nobody's watching. Anything you can think of that is a creative thing. Paint. Well, have a shower. Having a shower is the best thing. When you're in the shower, the words just come. You don't even realise, because you're not thinking about it, not stressing. Quite often, I'll tidy up the airing cupboard. That's pairing socks, amazing thing, because suddenly plots happen.
Yeah, Gav, did you ever get writer's block along the way?
No, the way I write is that I don't plan anything. So I think that's a good way of not getting, if you don't plan, you don't put yourself under any pressure, because I think that if you've got a start, a middle and an end to a book, you're trying your hardest to get to that point. And I think that's where people struggle. I don't know, because I don't suffer from it.
Gosh.
The only thing I do suffer from is I love writing on trains and on planes.
Uh-oh.
And I haven't been able to go on trains or planes for a long time, so I struggle to write.
Can you write while you're jogging?
Does it look like a jog, Ben?
What about yourself, Des? Did you ever get blocked?
Well, I've got a little game I play, and it's called Do More Research. I've been amazed when you start doing research, the new worlds that you find by accident. I had one lovely experience, which not many people would even think of doing, but getting the House of Commons minutes for the 1760s and try reading them. And you could write a book, a completely different book about the weird things that you find. But one of them happened to help me enormously with my story. But as a general rule, I would say, if you have the chance, just do some more research. It'll take your head down different roads, and you'll be amazed what you might find out.
I found recently that I've been writing, the podcasting I was writing, I've written an episode in a day, and I've written another one. It took me 2 months, coming in every day at 9 o'clock, staring at the thing and trying to figure it out. And I think that I was lucky, because the trust that you have that it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. The trust that it's going to work itself out has to be there. I've been lucky, because the people who are waiting for it on the other end are very easygoing, liberal, and they have been going, it doesn't matter. It's looking great. It'll be there. It'll be fine. And I've been being under pressure would be harder, but I think you have to trust. I don't know whether you experience this. You have to trust your ability to produce, and you've gotten so far. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? And I look back and I think, well, I've already written 8 episodes. I just have to write this one. so yeah, but so that thing of calming down. But I think maybe trust in yourself. I think for me, I think is another thing. I'm going to end up, ladies and gentlemen, on a tip that you have, to save people money if they get into the process of self-publishing. And I'd like to start with yourself, Gav. Could you tell me something that you think that people could save money if they were to
self-publish? That's how to save money.
How to save money? Okay, but and within the within self-publishing, what's the tip that would save them from your experience that you might have thought to yourself, actually, I could have gone the other way around on this, and I think I could have done much better?
Yeah, I feel as though I could have got somebody to a proofreader, an artist to do the illustrations, and the printing would have been. I could have saved half the amount of what I spent.
That's very interesting. Okay, thank you. Karen, what's your experience? How would they save money? Yes. Des.
Ben, could I just suggest to Gav, I don't know whether he's done it. Have you ever used Fiverr? Are you familiar with Fiverr?
No, I've heard of it, but I've never used it.
Oh, well, the things you're just talking about right now, you can just put up a sort of an advertisement saying, I want somebody to help me with. And 50 maybe or so people will come back saying, I'll do it for you. Charging maybe £40, £30. You would be amazed what you can get out of it, but I'd recommend it.
Okay,
but you can't guarantee the quality, can you, Des?
Pardon?
You can't guarantee the quality, can you? Because there's people from anywhere in the world, you don't know who they are. So there's a bit of hit or miss in it as well, don't you? Isn't it? Is that true?
No, because they will send you back details of what they can do and examples of what they've done. No, you can be very selective.
Okay. That's cool.
That's good.
Yeah, that is good. Karen, what do you reckon? What do you think is the best people to save money, the best thing for them to do if they're going to get into self-publishing?
I would say the best thing to do is find your tribe. So find other indie authors because they will have your back. You can learn so much from them. You can be beta readers for each other. You can be proofreaders for each other. You can help each other climb the ladder. You can help each other bring a book to market for as little as you can get away with, whatever your budget happens to be.
That's fantastic. That's really good. Ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate you coming along tonight and to talk about this. I'm going to call up your images here and just remind people of the deals that they have available to them. Des's book, The Murder, Mutiny and the Muglins is available. You can see there's a Facebook page there. And he'll send you a signed copy all the way over from Ireland. And you can see here that there's also a shop there that you can go to and order directly from there as well. We have Gav's book, gavinbowden.co.uk, The Dreams of Time, and that has been discounted for you if you're tuning into this. You can see that he's bringing it down to £6 from $7.99, and he'll sign the copy for you. And also Karen. If you go to her website there, karengeiler.com, and you can also go to her Facebook page and keep in contact with her there. Join my Readers Club to get my Society Starter Library of Dare You, and there can be only one absolutely free. What's better than free? I don't know. What is better than free? Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. It has been brilliant. Have you enjoyed yourself, Laura?
Yeah, no, I've loved it. It's been absolutely lovely hearing about all of your journeys, and it's been very inspirational. And a few other people have said in the comments it's been inspirational as well. So lovely.
What do you reckon? What's the best thing that you got from this?
I think it's just fascinating all the different ways of publishing, and kind of if you start to write without taking those into account, how that shapes the journey you have with the book going forward. I don't think, because I've started writing myself, and you wouldn't think to have to think about, okay, if there's going to be an audio version of this, if there's going to be an ebook, like shaping it like that is a very interesting way to imagine writing.
And I think it's interesting too that there's two ends that we've had in the conversation tonight. One is in love with the product, and one is getting it out there neither of these things are different, and depends, I suppose, on the publisher, the writer, and what it is that they want. But there's a tactile thing, and then there's getting my story out and moving on to the next story. And I think that that's really interesting. It means that as writers, you have choices to make. There are things that you can do, and then there's also, of course, the ability to meet your readers, which is a huge element as far as I can see in this. And we already know that when we meet people that read. The first job I got in England, it was in the mid 70s, Laura. London in the mid 70s was mostly just mud, and there was Regent's Park, but that just had a fence around it, and it was mud on the inside. So it was pretty much like that. It was just mud, and everything was in black and white. But the book, I was in a chain of bookshops, and it was a great pleasure to work in a chain of bookshops because everybody comes in, can read, and so it's quite good. It's very cool. So I have a huge admiration for you guys for going through the thing that you do to get your voice out and your story out there. And thank you very much indeed for being with us tonight. I'm going to say goodbye to you, and we will make sure that we have all these details about your books. And I would ask you guys and anybody else who's watching to please share, so that we can.
Can I just add something, Ben?
What's that?
Can I add something?
Oh, go on, Gav.
I just wanted to say that I'm a normal bloke. I'm not particularly intellectual. I don't feel I'm particularly creative. But I've written a book. I've got it published. It's in my hands. Anybody can write a book. Yeah,
good for you, man. You're absolutely right. And you are creative because you wrote a book. I know how it works. Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's been a great pleasure, ladies and gentlemen. We will meet up on others of these talks. And thank you so much, Laura, for hanging around and having some fun and joining us on all this. And we'll do more of this. Do you reckon we should do more, Laura?
I think we should. It's been an absolute joy to do it with you all, so I'm definitely in again.
Do you know, I feel
comedy next time.
As bad as it could have been. Do you know what I'm saying?
We'll do some comedy next time.
Yeah, we'll get the cow in to narrate it next time.
Okay, guys, we'll catch you again soon. I'm going to end our broadcast. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. Bye now.
Thanks, Ben. Cheers.
Thank you, Ben.